When a stroke strikes, most people imagine it comes like lightning, sudden, unstoppable, and completely out of our control. But in emergency medicine, and especially when treating seniors, we know the reality is far more complex. I want to share the story of an older man who was alone in his kitchen. His arm suddenly went numb, and when he tried to speak, the words came out slurred and heavy. Instead of freezing in fear, he remembered something he learned years ago. He took one simple action, and it bought precious time before the ambulance arrived. This isn't a miracle story. It's about physiology. My colleague, Dr. Howard Tucker, renowned for his work in longevity medicine, and Dr. Shigeki Hinohara from Japan, who spent over a century studying aging, have both emphasized a crucial truth. Many strokes do not destroy the brain instantly. Research from the National Institutes of Health and the American Stroke Association confirms this. Most ischemic strokes, which are the most common type, progress over minutes, not seconds. That means there's a narrow but incredibly meaningful window where your response can influence the outcome. The goal of this video isn't to talk about long-term stroke prevention. It's about what happens in those first critical moments. We'll explore how blood and oxygen flow begin to change, how brain cells struggle but remain alive, how stress and panic can actually worsen the damage, and most importantly, how a simple combination of timing, positioning, and controlled breathing can help protect vulnerable brain tissue while you're waiting for emergency care. Let me be absolutely clear. This is not a substitute for medical treatment. Calling for an ambulance immediately is the most important thing you can do. But while help is on its way, there are actions seniors can take to support their brain and potentially slow down the deterioration. I've seen patients recover their speech and their independence because they acted quickly and calmly. I've also seen patients lose vital functions simply because they panicked or waited. Understanding the difference could save a life, maybe your own, or the life of someone you love. Stick with me, and I'll explain exactly what you need to know. Thanks for watching. What really happens in your brain the moment a stroke begins? It doesn't just shut down. In those first critical moments, something subtle and surprisingly hopeful is happening. Your brain is fighting, not surrendering. Imagine this. Blood flow to a part of your brain slows down or gets blocked. Oxygen levels drop. Nerve cells start firing irregularly. This is when the early signs appear. Your speech might get a little slurred. An arm or your face could feel heavy or tingly, and your thoughts feel foggy or confused. Many people just describe it as something feels off, but because it doesn't feel dramatic at first, they hesitate. I remember an older patient who was out gardening when his right hand suddenly felt weak. He just thought he was tired and sat down to rest. Fortunately, a neighbor noticed the change in his speech and called for help immediately. That quick action saved his ability to speak and walk. Those early warning flares were his brain signaling distress. This early stage isn't random. Research shows that during these first few minutes, many brain cells are still alive, even though they're struggling. The brain actually enters a survival mode, trying to reroute signals and lower its activity to protect itself. Even a specific zone in the brain called the penumbra. This is tissue that is damaged but not yet dead. These cells can be saved if blood flow is restored quickly. This window is small, but it's real. What you do in those minutes can change everything. Understanding that the brain is fighting for you, not failing instantly, can empower you to act fast, instead of waiting for symptoms to pass. One of the most dangerous parts of a stroke isn't the clot itself, it's the hesitation. Many seniors miss these first warning signs, not because they're careless, but because the symptoms are so subtle. Strokes often whisper before they scream. People feel off rather than in danger. An arm feels heavy. Words don't come out right, but they convince themselves it'll pass. It's human nature to hope discomfort will just go away. I recall a woman in her late 70s who felt tingling in her cheek and had brief trouble speaking while watching TV. She just sat there quietly, afraid of overreacting or being a bother. By the time her daughter insisted on calling 911, precious minutes were gone. Her recovery was much harder because of that delay. Neurologists know why this hesitation happens. When blood flow to the brain decreases, one of the first things to weaken is your ability to make decisions and use good judgment. So, the brain becomes confused, not alarmed. The very tool you need to recognize the danger is one of the first things to be compromised. Emotional factors play a big role too. Many older adults pride themselves on being tough or not wanting to be a burden. Others have a fear of hospitals. All these feelings lead to dangerous waiting. But the truth is simple. Hesitation is the real enemy. Every minute that passes allows more brain tissue to suffer irreversible damage. When you're scared and confused, it often leads to inaction, and that just speeds up the decline. This is why education before an emergency is so vital. Once confusion sets in, logic is already out the window. In a crisis, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall back on what we know, on our habits. Learning the signs of a stroke ahead of time gives you the power to act quickly, without second guessing. That knowledge can truly be the difference between a full recovery and a lifelong disability. If you ever feel that something is just off, or you see these signs in someone else, please don't wait. Call for emergency help right away. It's always better to be safe. Did you know there's a simple, life-changing principle for stroke response that most people have never heard? It's this: the brain can survive longer if its oxygen demand falls faster than its oxygen supply. This isn't just a theory. It can make a real difference in what happens next. When a stroke hits, the brain isn't instantly deprived of oxygen. Blood flow gets reduced, and oxygen becomes limited. In that critical moment, the outcome depends on the balance between how much oxygen the brain needs and how much it can still get. Unfortunately, our natural reaction often makes things worse. Panic sets in. The heart races, breathing gets shallow, blood pressure spikes. All of these things increase the brain's demand for oxygen at the exact moment its supply is being cut off. I remember caring for a retired schoolteacher who felt sudden dizziness and arm weakness. She became terrified, her breathing quickened, and within minutes, she collapsed. Her panic accelerated the damage. In contrast, another patient, who had learned about stroke response, had a completely different experience. When her symptoms started, she immediately lay down, focused on breathing slowly, and stayed as calm as possible while her husband called 911. Her calm response helped preserve precious brain tissue until paramedics arrived. The difference was staggering. According to the NIH, nearly 2 million brain cells die every minute during an untreated stroke. That's why we say time is brain. But it's not just about the clock. It's also about staying calm. Our bodies have amazing built-in mechanisms to protect the brain when oxygen is low. Think about deep-sea divers holding their breath. Or what happens when someone faints? The body automatically redirects blood to vital organs. These survival reflexes work best when stress hormones are low. Stress shuts them down. Calm activates them. The goal here isn't to stop the stroke yourself. That requires hospital treatment. The goal is to put the brain into a temporary low-power mode. This reduces its metabolic needs, supports blood flow to the brain tissue that can still be saved. The penumbra and ultimately slows down the damage until doctors can intervene. This short window of time might not cure the stroke, but it can absolutely influence what abilities are preserved. For seniors especially, knowing how to respond calmly can be the key to protecting their independence, mobility, and speech. Now, let's talk about something that almost no one considers during a stroke: posture. How you position your body in those first few minutes can dramatically influence blood flow to your brain. Blood doesn't just flow on its own. It's affected by gravity, pressure, and the resistance in your blood vessels. In an emergency, our instincts are often wrong. Panic makes us want to pace around, sit bolt upright, or lie flat on our back. These actions feel natural, but they actually put more strain on the heart and can increase pressure inside the skull. I cared for a man in his 80s who, when his stroke symptoms began, tried to walk it off. He thought moving around would clear his head. Instead, his symptoms got much worse within minutes because his body was working harder while his brain was getting less oxygen. Compare that to another patient who recognized the warning signs, immediately lay calmly on her side, and focused on slow breathing. Her recovery was significantly better. Research in emergency neurology shows that changing your head and body position can alter blood flow to the brain within seconds. This is especially true for older adults, whose blood vessels are often less elastic. Even a small change in posture can make a big difference in oxygen delivery. So, what's the right way to position yourself? The safest position is to lie on your side with your head slightly elevated, maybe on a small pillow. This is often called the recovery position. It helps keep your airway open, prevents you from choking if you vomit, and reduces pressure inside your head. Avoid lying flat on your back, which can make it harder to breathe, or sitting straight up, which makes it harder for your heart to pump blood up to your brain. The key insight is this: posture is a tool. It's not a minor detail. Choosing the right position helps your brain by reducing pressure, supporting blood drainage, and maintaining flow to the areas at risk. During the first moments of a stroke, you want to cooperate with your body's physiology, not fight against it. A calm, intentional posture can help preserve critical brain function while you wait for help. That simple awareness could be the difference that protects your ability to speak, to remember, or to walk independently. Thank you for watching. Spreading this knowledge could truly save a life, or preserve someone's quality of life. If you or someone you know experiences a stroke, the first and most important action is always to call 911. What I am about to share is a supportive technique, a bridge to protect the brain while waiting for that crucial medical help to arrive. It is never a replacement for emergency services. So, when do you use this? The moment stroke symptoms appear, and while someone is calling 911, think of the classic signs: sudden weakness, often on one side of the body, slurred speech, facial drooping, or sudden confusion. When these happen, taking a specific protective position is key. Action and calling for help must happen together. I once treated an older gentleman who noticed his wife's speech suddenly slurring. He immediately had her lie down on her side and breathe slowly while he called for an ambulance. Because they acted so quickly and did both things at once, she recovered her speech within days. In contrast, another patient waited to see if the symptoms would just go away. He sat upright and tense. That delay made his recovery much harder. However, there are times you should not use this method. If the person loses consciousness, has a severe injury like from a major fall, or if their breathing becomes unstable, standard first aid priorities take over: airway, breathing, and circulation. In those cases, keeping them breathing and safe is the only focus. Many people worry that changing position might affect blood pressure, but research and my own experience show that panic elevates blood pressure far more than a calm, supported position ever could. The goal here is stabilization, not stimulation. It's about reducing pressure and the brain's workload while you wait for the professionals. Knowing when and how to act can be the difference that preserves function and independence. The key is early recognition, an immediate call for help, and calm support until that help arrives. Now, let's talk about the simple actions that can help protect the brain while waiting for the ambulance. What you do isn't dramatic, it's practical, physiologically sound, and something everyone can remember. Step 1. Deliberately change position. Don't stay standing or pace around in fear. Don't sit bolt upright with tension in your shoulders. Instead, carefully lower yourself, or the person you're helping, to lie gently on one side, not flat on your back, which can raise pressure inside the skull, and not face down. Keep the head slightly elevated, not high, just enough to help blood drain from the brain and reduce that intracranial pressure. This position supports blood flow back to the heart, reduces strain, and helps maintain circulation to vulnerable brain tissue. In older adults, whose blood vessels are less flexible, these small advantages can matter immensely. I remember a patient who instinctively sat bolt upright during his stroke. His muscles tensed, his breathing got faster, and his blood pressure shot up. Moments later, his symptoms got worse. Another patient lay calmly on her side, with her head supported, and her cognitive recovery was noticeably better. Step 2. Control the breathing. Instead of panting or holding your breath, inhale slowly through the nose and exhale even more slowly through the mouth. Longer exhales signal your nervous system to calm down, slowing your heart rate and easing blood pressure spikes. This reduces the brain's demand for oxygen at a time when its supply is already threatened. Step 3. Minimize all movement. Stay as still as possible. Every unnecessary motion, even small ones, raises the body's metabolic demand. Being still helps protect the at-risk tissue in what doctors call the strokes penumbra, the zone of the brain that can still be saved. So the protective formula is simple and easy to remember. Lie on your side, keep your head supported, breathe slowly, and stay still, all while emergency services are on their way. Remember, this is not a treatment, it's a protective posture, a way to work with your body's physiology until medical care can take over and restore blood flow. In those fragile minutes, these calm, intentional actions could be what saves someone's speech, mobility, or their independence. Thank you for watching. Sharing this information could make a life-changing difference for someone. Knowing what to do during a stroke is one thing, but can you actually remember it when you're stressed? Because stress changes everything. So many of us think we'll just figure it out in the moment, but that's not how our brains work in an emergency. We don't rise to the occasion. We fall back on what's familiar. Think about it. Pilots, surgeons, First responders, they all drill life-saving procedures over and over again. Not because they expect to fail, but because they know panic can erase logical thinking. When you're under extreme pressure, your body runs on habit, not on-the-spot reasoning. Seniors can use this exact same principle with a simple technique: mental rehearsal. It's an exercise you can do occasionally to make your emergency response feel automatic instead of overwhelming. Let me walk you through it. First, picture the early signs of a stroke, maybe a heavy arm, some slurred words, or a sudden feeling of confusion. Now, imagine your calm, practiced reaction. You lie down on your side, support your head just a little, and start taking slow, deep breaths through your nose. You stay completely still while someone else calls 911. See, your brain treats vivid mental visualization almost like a physical rehearsal. It activates the same neural pathways, making the response feel more natural if a real crisis ever happens. You don't need to do this obsessively, just a brief practice now and then. The goal is to build familiarity, not anxiety. When a posture or breathing pattern feels familiar, your brain is far more likely to follow it without hesitation. I once worked with a couple in their 70s who practiced this exact scenario. Months later, the husband suddenly experienced numbness and had trouble speaking. His wife recognized the signs immediately. She calmly guided him to lie on his side and breathe slowly, while she called 911. Because they had already visualized this moment, there was no panic, only action. His neurologist later said that her calm response was crucial in preserving his speech and mobility. Mental rehearsal does something else, too. It gives you back a sense of control. Knowing you have a meaningful plan reduces fear and lowers stress hormones, which actually helps improve circulation and oxygen balance in that critical moment. Remember, the goal is to cure the stroke yourself, to protect the brain while you wait for professional help to arrive. Building that familiarity can save precious minutes, precious brain tissue, and ultimately, preserve your quality of life. When we think about surviving a stroke, a lot of people picture it coming down to pure strength, speed, or just blind luck. But there's a story that reminds us of something else entirely. What saved a man's brain wasn't brute force, it was his memory. Even as his mind was in chaos, his body automatically went through the motions he had learned. The lesson here for all of us, especially seniors, is simple yet incredibly powerful. If you ever see stroke symptoms, whether in yourself or someone else, and you've called for emergency help, here's what to do next. Take a protective position. Lie gently on your side. Support your head with something soft, just a slight lift. Then, focus on your breathing. Breathe slowly in through your nose, and make your exhale last a little longer. Try to stay as still and as calm as you possibly can. Now, these steps won't stop the stroke itself, but what they do is buy the brain something absolutely precious: space, time, and oxygen. That small window of time can be the deciding factor in whether someone keeps their speech, their ability to move, or their independence until medical help arrives. As a physician, I've witnessed the outcomes of very similar strokes. In one case, a person made a full recovery and regained their independence. In another, someone was left with a permanent disability. So often, the difference came down to what happened in those crucial minutes before the ambulance pulled up. Emergencies don't care if we're ready for them. They just arrive and show us whether we remember what to do. The best case scenario is that you never have to use this knowledge. But if that moment ever comes, for you or for someone you love, remembering these simple steps could be what protects a life, a brain, and the future independence of someone who means the world to you. If you found this guidance helpful, please share it with someone you care about. These are the moments when knowledge is our best protection. Subscribe to The Healthy Path for more science-based strategies to help you stay strong, independent, and healthy as you age. And always remember, preparation is power. Stay informed, stay calm, and stay safe.